so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. Yeah. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
And welcome back to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Monday morning. Happy Dr. Martin Luther King Day, of course. Had he lived, he would have been 88 years old in that famous I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C. so many decades ago. And riveting throughout the entire country right now. Marches taking place, peaceful marches, of course, in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King all over the country, including right here in the city of Fresno today. So you can join in on the festivities this morning after you watch our show. It's going on all day around the country. And so a quick programming note here. We'll talk about Dr. King throughout the show here, but we'll talk politics. A programming note for tomorrow. Derek Franks, he is the general manager of the Fresno Grizzlies. He'll be in here tomorrow. And then Wednesday, it'll be Steve Brandow, the city councilman in the Northwest District. I think that's District number 2. Anyway, he'll be here to talk about local politics and the housing issue and everything else. For now, you're watching us on Comcast Channel 375 as usual. If you do not have Comcast cable, Xfinity, as a lot of people like to call it, it's not a problem because a lot of people have those outdoor antennas now. You know, those big digital antennas which you can get free TV at 43.6 and 13.1. The replay, you can see it 2 more times later today at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 13.6 YouTube, 8 o'clock tonight, 4.6 Biz TV, and after that it's on YouTube forever. You can see it, my friends. Hey, I want to talk about the week that Donald Trump had last week. It all started last Monday. Let's put up the picture of Meryl Streep. She is the actress. It all began with her big speech at the Golden Globes. And then Donald Trump, of course, responded with a tweet by saying that, well, Meryl Streep is nothing more than an overrated actress. Then the confirmation hearings came, Tillerson, Sessions, and Comey. After that, it was the Trump news conference, fake news, Jim Acosta, there he is, CNN, no, I won't give you a question, the Russian spying, his business dealings, and all the rest. Then, finally, Congressman John Lewis says that he will not attend the inauguration this coming Friday. He says Trump is not a legitimate president. Donald Trump, meanwhile, tweeting back, John Lewis is all talk, no action. Congressman John Lewis should finally focus on the burning and crime infested in the inner cities of the U.S. I can use all the help I can get. Hey, what about FBI Director James Comey, who's under fire, briefed by Donald Trump on the Russians having compromising personal and financial information about him? Sources say that Comey did not go into details about that 35-page dossier, but reportedly came from that man right there, Christopher Steele, a British intelligence officer who worked for Orbis Business Intelligence in Washington, D.C. Steele's investigation was commissioned by Fusion, a Washington research company. Trump says the information about him, nothing more than fake news.
I will say again, I think it's a disgrace that information would be let out. I saw the information, I read the information outside of that meeting. It's all fake news, it's phony stuff. It didn't happen. And it was gotten by opponents of ours, as you know, because you reported it, and so did many of the other people, It was a group of opponents that got together, sick people, and they put that crap together. So as far as hacking, I think it was Russia, but I think we also get hacked by other countries and other people. And I can say that, you know, when we lost 22 million names and everything else that was hacked recently, they didn't make a big deal out of that. That was something that was extraordinary. That was probably China. We have much hacking going on. But remember this, we talk about the hacking, and hacking's bad, and it shouldn't be done. But look at the things that were hacked. Look at what was learned from that hacking. That Hillary Clinton got the questions to the debate and didn't report it? That's a horrible thing. That's a horrible thing. Can you imagine that if Donald Trump got the questions to the debate, it would have been the biggest story in the history of stories, and they would have said, immediately you have to get out of the race. Nobody even talked about it. It's a very terrible thing. Yeah. If Putin likes Donald Trump, I consider that an asset, not a liability, because we have a horrible relationship with Russia. Russia can help us fight ISIS, which, by the way, is number one tricky. I mean, if you look, this administration created ISIS by leaving at the wrong time. The void was created, ISIS was formed. If Putin likes Donald Trump, guess what, folks? That's called an asset, not a liability. Now, I don't know that I'm going to get along with Vladimir Putin. I hope I do, but there's a good chance I won't. And if I don't, do you honestly believe that Hillary would be tougher on Putin than me? Does anybody in this room really believe that? Give me a break.
All right, live in our studio right now is Dr. Harry Harris. He worked in the White House. He worked in Washington, D.C. 1975, appointed Director of Management in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. His responsibilities included strategic planning, policy development, and congressional relations. Dr. Harris then served at the White House as a senior professional staff member. He is the president and founder of Healthcare California, and he also has a company called Global Management Associates. We'll talk about all that and Donald Trump and politics and Dr. Martin Luther King. We got an hour here, well, 50 minutes now. 436-MeTV, option 11. Our expert is in the house today. Back in just a moment. After this, from Thomas Casagrande, our sponsor today, 20/20 Optometrics. At 20/20 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 20/20 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
So many things happen in the Donald Trump administration, or not yet. It'll be 4 days and counting before the inauguration, but his team of people, boy, incredible. It all started with Meryl Streep last week, and then it was downhill from there. I want to welcome in Dr. Harry Harris. Good to see you, Doctor, this morning. How are you?
Good to see you, John.
All right. Before I do have a call, I'm going to put you on hold just for a minute.
Okay.
Before we get into all the politics, just ask you about Dr. Martin Luther King and what impact he has had on this country for the last, 4 or 5 decades now since the assassination. And we all remember what he did during the time that he was here. What impact has he had?
A tremendous impact on this country. His vision of America and how it should be as a country. We still continue to have problems today. There's no question about it. And an icon of the civil rights movement. There's no question about this. And it's great that the Americans now today are celebrating his birthday.
Yeah. He wanted inclusion for everyone.
For everyone, exactly right. I was in Washington during the 1960s in the civil rights movement, and I can remember his death, tragic death. But his vision, his legacy will continue for the coming decades. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Caller, go ahead. You're on with Dr. Harris. What's your question this morning?
Okay, it's kind of complex. It won't take too long. I grew up in the 70s, and before the movie Roots came out, I believe that Donald Trump is going through the same thing that a black person in basically, a white culture, let's say Madera Foothills or Clovis or Fresno Unified School District. He's going through the same treatment that a black person went through. And the other thing is my question is this. Martin Luther King, from what I've seen of him, I believe that Trump really parallels what Martin Luther King stood for. I want to know how the doctor feels about that. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, there's no question in my judgment, and I think with most of the American people, that Dr. King remains part of our history. He was a person who put his personal preferences secondary and put the rights of the Americans, whether it be white or black or brown, and the writings, the speeches, the marches, all have contributed to a better state of racial relations that we've seen in the last 100+ years. There's no question about it. But there's a lot of work that continues to be done, that needs to be done. And we have him as an icon, and we can all work to make sure that the race relations in America become much, much better as the days and months and the years come along.
Yeah, the thing that struck me, and I was in middle school when he was assassinated, and even in elementary school when that I Have a Dream speech took place. I think I was only in second grade when that speech took place. But one thing I do remember is that he wanted to get his message across in a peaceful way.
Yes, absolutely. He wasn't confrontational at all. Almost along the same lines as Gandhi in India. Mm-hmm. Peaceful movement. And sometimes when you have a peaceful movement, even though there were occasional times that there, crises did, break, fights did happen, violence came along, but actually the whole civil rights movement during the 50s and the 60s was basically a peaceful movement. Even though there were other groups who wanted a more confrontational view of race relations, but he kind of settled everything down within the community.
Right. He had other people around him like Jesse Jackson who maybe wanted to ramp it up a little bit, but he calmed it down.
Well, you could also recall during the 60s there was the other black movements in the United States were
Black Panthers?
The Black Panthers, and
Yeah.
More confrontational with more violence. But he was a calming force, in my judgment, with the race issue. And as a result, I think we had more progress than if we just went along the lines of violence.
Right. Hey, I want to switch to some politics now. I don't know what Dr. King would think about Donald Trump at this point. Of course, the inauguration takes place on Friday. I do want to put up that picture again of John Lewis, the congressman, of course, and he says he will not attend the inauguration, and a lot of other lawmakers will not either. Got a phone call here, but I want to ask you the question first. And the fact of the matter is that Trump tweeted back. Now you have a back and forth, and
Right.
it's confrontational, it's controversy.
Right.
What should Donald Trump have done in this case? Should he have tweeted out?
Well, first of all, I don't think so. But that's Donald Trump. That's the new presidential communications line with the tweets. Sometimes it's best left, some things are best left unsaid. And in this case, he should have been, in my judgment, a little bit more presidential. But on the other hand, I know John Lewis is very strong on his feelings. But to say that the election was not legitimate, I think is a little overboard, in my judgment.
Right, and he was, of course, John Lewis was a major player during the civil rights
Exactly
movement
right.
in Selma.
In Selma, he was accosted. He
Was beaten up, I
was
believe,
beaten
wasn't
up. Exactly right. So he did. There's plenty of action on his part, but the president-elect, in my judgment, should have just let the issue alone.
he? Yeah, I think the caller is gone now, so we'll move on.
Okay.
But let me ask you also about the hacking situation. So many things happened last week, and like I said earlier, it started with Meryl Streep. Then you had the confirmation hearings. We'll talk a little bit about that as the course of the program here unfolds. But what about hacking? You worked in the White House.
Right.
Your resume is impressive. You worked in Washington for many years. You worked in the Defense Department. You worked in the White House. Is hacking a new thing?
Well, hacking is a new thing because of the technology. We didn't have computers in my day in Washington. The best we had was an IBM Selectric. But we did have, in the intelligence agencies, we had programs that we could secure information from foreign locations. But today, we've got the technology, which is just tremendous, that we can pick up just millions of calls. We can pick up information, and actually we can just get into someone's computer.
But are we hacking them in return? They're
Well,
hacking us, but
well-
and how do we know for sure if they're hacking
Well, first
us?
of all, in the intelligence business, John, you don't reveal sources or methods. That's number one. And even I've been out of the White House for quite some time. But even until today, I'm not really at liberty to discuss what I had access to.
Or you'd have to kill me.
Right. Well, or what we could have done, and what the means that we had to secure information on our adversaries. And today, this has been wrapped up to several levels. There's no question about it.
How do we know Russia's hacking us? How do we
do know.
that?
The point is, we do know. Our intelligence agencies, there's no question in my mind or in my judgment, we know what's going on not only in Russia, but in several other areas around the world.
China, North Korea, Iran. We know what's going on there?
Of course we know what's going on.
And do they know what's going on here in return?
Well, of course. You have
So
two,
it's a kind of a tit
you have,
for tat,
you
right?
have two really basic avenues of intelligence. One is human,
Okay.
spies.
On the ground.
On the ground, undercover, what have you. And the second is technical. And technical could be from the sky above or through the telephone or your iPhone. It's just unbelievable. I'm really amazed because of this technology, what's happening. But I know very well that our government knows a lot. And we just can't go out and spill it. Even
Right.
though the press and the media, they're very interested in getting all this information. But the fact of the matter is, intelligence should be kept secret. There's no question in my mind.
One final thing before we go to break here. Are we at risk? Are we at danger knowing that Russia could hack us at any time and find out any kind of information? I mean, I've even heard that on your iPhone and on your computer, there are people that put this little tape up on the camera so they can't break
Yes,
into your
right.
system. Now, hang on, caller. Are we in any danger because of this?
We're always at danger, and that's why we prepare ourselves as a nation.
Is it high risk?
It could be.
It could be.
It could be. But you prepare for those contingencies. We
The
prepare
government.
the government, our national security apparatus,
Yeah.
which is very, very broad, very wide, and we prepare for it.
Yeah. Caller, you're on the line and on the air with Dr. Harry Harris. Go ahead.
Dr. Harris, I'd like to ask one quick question. Do you think Putin helped Trump to get elected somehow, or I've heard so many things, but since you've been in the intelligence business and everything, is there a way he could have had or had someone, ordered to, kind of help Trump? They got along well, I think, so that's my only question.
we had a campaign, and the campaign on both sides produced a lot of information. The American people are the ones who voted, not Vladimir Putin or anyone else. In my judgment, this was an election that was not hacked. Nobody went into our voting booth, but all the voters listened to everyone, whether the news was true or not, whether it was fake or not. When you go into the voting booth, you make the decision, and you gather all the information that you've heard or listened or seen when you make that decision in the voting booth, whether you're voting for a local politician or for someone in the presidential election. So in my judgment, this election was open, was fair. The Russians did nothing, in my judgment, that altered the results of this election.
What did they do then, in your opinion?
Well, according to the information that we have from the intelligence agencies, they provided news which was, in most cases, false.
About certain people.
About certain people.
John Podesta.
Right.
Yeah.
But what happened, they went into the emails of John Podesta, and they found out how the Democrats were running the campaign.
And they spied on conversations, email conversations.
Exactly
Debbie
right.
Wasserman Schultz.
Exactly right. And what happened, they released that to the American public.
But they didn't alter the election.
They didn't alter the election. Now, was it good that we found out what was happening with John Podesta? Was it good for us to know that Mrs. Clinton had the questions? By the way, this morning, John, thanks for the question that you gave to me.
Yeah, right.
So this is very spontaneous. But the point is, these are high stakes and not really very fair when you have people on national TV, the media, having the questions and then filtering them to the candidates.
Right. I think it was Donna Brazile.
Donna Brazile
who gave the questions
exactly
to
right
Hillary.
on CNN. Exactly right. Mm-hmm. This is not playing the game fair.
Right.
And of course, she was booted off the program,
right.
as
and
she should have.
So what you're saying is that the Russians and Putin didn't alter the election results, but what they did is cast Hillary and the Democrats in a negative light, hoping that would have an effect on the election.
Possibly, if that was the purpose
right.
of the objective of the Russians.
Right.
Now, there wasn't any love lost between Vladimir Putin and Mrs. Clinton because he was not really happy with her. But there's, Donald Trump has a point when he says that it is good if we could get along with nations. That's what the international relations is all about, is that we get along with our nations until such time as we feel that the interests of both nations are not going along the same line. And I think Donald Trump has also come about, and I think the clips that you just showed, that if he needs to be tough, he will be tough with the Russians.
Yeah. Dr. Harry Harris is here. He used to work in the White House, the Secretary of Defense as well, back in 1975. He knows how Washington works. And so we'll continue our conversation here on Dr. Martin Luther King Day. It's a Monday. Our experts in the House and Dr. Thomas Casagrande is our sponsor, 2020 Optometrics at Shaw and Blackstone. Back in a moment.
Not sure what you're watching? Want to see what's coming up next? Or just want to browse what's on without the hassle of flipping channels? Your wish has come true. Now you can view schedules for all the digital TV channels available in the Central Valley. Get local weather updates and forecasts, and listen to nationally syndicated Biz Talk Radio, all on KVHF 4.1. Rescan your TV now, then tune in to Digital Channel 4.1 to start enjoying the all-new TV Guide.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Boy, what a powerful speech so many years ago. It happened shortly before Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. Not sure the exact timetable of that speech, but some say it was the night before, maybe a couple of days before. Nonetheless, a very powerful speech. Dr. Harry Harris is here on Martin Luther King Day. And I didn't know, you just told me that at Berkeley undergraduate, you studied Russian history, Russian politics, and that kind of leads right into my next segment here. Mike Pompeo, he is the CIA nominee for Donald Trump. And he says, you know, here's the thing. Some of his nominees are straying away from what Donald Trump is saying. They're not agreeing with him. Is that a good thing?
Yes, as Mr. Trump said, that he told all of his appointees, speak what is on your mind, and that's what they're doing.
Right, and Pompeo believes, I'm going to roll a videotape right now, he says it's pretty clear what Russia has done, what they're doing, and something needs to be done about it. Here's what he told the committee.
Right.
In efforts to hack information and to have an impact on American democracy. I'm very clear-eyed about what that intelligence report says. And I have every expectation as we continue to develop the facts, I will relay those not only to the President, but the team around him and to you all, so that we all can have a robust discussion about how to take on what is an enormous threat from cyber. I think you all know that. You all have lived it. This is very real. It is growing. It is not new in that sense. But this was an aggressive action taken by the senior leadership inside of Russia, and America has an obligation, and the CIA has a part of that obligation to protect that information.
Vladimir Putin and the Russians have basically compromised our national security. What do you think it takes to deter him?
I can tell you it is going to require an incredibly robust American response. A response that is a security-related response, that is we have to get better at defending against these, and then a response that holds actors accountable who commit these kind of actions against the United States of America. The form, the nature, the depth, the severity of those responses will be decisions of policymakers that will be beyond me as the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, but I do view my role there as central in providing you with a deep understanding of what's taken place, how that took place, and a set of options surrounding the kinds of things in the intelligence world, at least, one might take action on so that we could successfully push back against it.
Mike Pompeo, right?
Absolutely. I was very impressed with his presentation. I heard a significant part of that presentation, and he's absolutely right what he said. And I'm very pleased that Mr. Trump did appoint Mr. Pompeo. In fact, yesterday I had a fairly long conversation with a former ambassador, one of our ambassadors, who is, in my judgment, kind of a very liberal individual. And he was also very impressed with Pompeo. So I think the CIA is going to be in very, very good hands.
The question is, will Trump listen to him if they disagree?
Let me tell you something, John. When you're running a campaign, you're going to say a lot of things. When you get into the White House, let me tell you, when you get into the White House, and especially in the office of the president, things do change. You look at things differently. It's going to be a very changed environment for the president or anybody working in the White House. I can think of my days going in as a...
Well, because right now he's questioning the intelligence, he's questioning the CIA, the FBI director James Comey, he's questioning all 17 agencies that they have their information wrong, that he knows better. When he gets, he finally, this coming Friday, he'll be sitting in that
He'll be
hot
sitting
seat.
in that chair, and things
Yes.
will change.
They will.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the intelligence will have a major impact on him.
Exactly right. And he's got a pretty good staff around him. I think he's got a very good number of people around him.
They aren't going to be yes men, I hope.
They're not going to be yes men. I don't think Mr. Tillerson's going to be a yes man.
Okay. Let's put up the photo. Speaking of which, Rex Tillerson, and we've talked about him many times on this program, but let's put his photo up now. And I want to talk about Rex Tillerson just for a moment here. When questioned by Marco Rubio, and he asked Marco asked him whether or not he thinks that Vladimir Putin is a war criminal, Tillerson said, "I would not use that term." What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I also saw that segment of the confirmation. And what Mr. Tillerson also said, that he's an engineer by training, and he looks at the facts. And before making a judgment, that's a very serious judgment. And to say if you're a war criminal, you're passing judgment on an individual which has some legal connotation to it.
Did he give the right answer?
I think as a person at that time, in my judgment, yes, he gave the answer. Give me the facts. He's seen all the videos and what have you. Now the question is, who's responsible for this? Is Mr. Bashar al-Assad responsible in Syria? Is Vladimir Putin responsible? The fact of the matter is, let's wait. When Mr. Tillerson becomes the Secretary of State, then we can go for the next step.
And Rubio pressed him. He says,
Yes,
are you not aware that Putin annexed Crimea? Are you not aware that he took over Ukraine? Are you not aware of what he did in Syria, bombing schools and hospitals and civilians? Are you not aware of that? And he still said, well, I'm not ready to say whether or not, and there's Marco Rubio there, I'm not ready to say he's a war criminal. And he gave the right answer, I guess.
He needs... to make that statement to be a war criminal, you're passing judgment on an individual. Where are the facts?
Yeah.
And that's what I think Mr. Tillerson did the right thing. We will investigate and come to that conclusion.
And I want to roll the soundbite before we go to break. It's a soundbite with Rex Tillerson testifying before Congress last week. Here's what he said. He picked up the conversation after Marco Rubio questioned him.
Mr. Tillerson, do you believe that Vladimir Putin and his cronies are responsible for ordering the murder of countless dissidents, journalists, and political opponents?
I do not have sufficient information to make that claim.
Are you aware that people who oppose Vladimir Putin wind up dead all over the world, poisoned, shot in the back of the head? And do you think that was coincidental, or do you think that it is quite possible, or likely, as I believe, that they were part of an effort to murder his political opponents?
Well, people who speak up for freedom in regimes that are repressive are often a threat, and these things happen to them. In terms of assigning specific responsibilities, I would have to have more information. As I indicated, I feel it's important that in advising the President, if confirmed, that I deal with facts, that I deal with sufficient information, which means having access to all information, and I'm sure there's a large body of information that I've never seen that's in the classified realm. I look forward, if confirmed, to becoming fully informed, but I am not willing to make conclusions on what is only publicly available or have been publicly reported.
None of this is classified, Mr. Tillerson. These people are dead. Political opponents are dead.
Your question was people who were directly responsible for that. I'm not disputing these people are dead.
Because he ran ExxonMobil, is he too close to Putin and Russia to be Secretary of State?
No, I don't think so. I think it makes him better qualified to be Secretary of State. It's not only the relations with the Russians, but also the relations with other nations. He's a very qualified candidate for the position, in my judgment. He's going to come into the State Department and ask questions, as you should. I think anybody coming into any organization, whether it be a private organization or a public organization, first of all, you should take a look at the staff that you have. You should have your people there and take a look at the issues. And there are just hundreds of issues in the State Department and all our cabinet offices. I mean, it's not an easy job. Very, very, very difficult when you're dealing with nearly 200 nations in the world.
Is he right in saying that, look, I haven't seen all the classified information?
Let me tell you something. I think the question was proper. What you're asking him as being almost a legal jurist, a judge, or a jury passing judgment on Vladimir Putin or other people. There's no question about Bashar al-Assad in Syria. That's his country. He has his forces. We can see that. When you're talking about an external force, whether it be the Russians or even the Turks, you have to have a little bit, you should wait a little bit more in terms of time. I thought the answer was proper as an appointee for the Secretary of State's position.
Okay, Dr. Harry Harris is here. He worked in the White House for many years and also at the Defense Department. You're welcome to call in 436-ME-TV option 11. We have an open phone line here on Dr. Martin Luther King Day, talking about Donald Trump, talking about spying, talking about hacking. And you're welcome to weigh in. Dr. Thomas Casagrande of 2020 Optometrics is our sponsor today.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
The Justice Network is here. If you haven't tuned in, you're missing a great lineup of gripping stories of real crime, plus an unprecedented effort by viewers like you to play an active role in making your community safer. You can help support law enforcement by providing information that may lead to the apprehension of dangerous criminals or find a missing child. Great shows and your chance to fight crime, only on the Justice Network.
Back here on the program, live, of course, 436-ME-TV option 11 if you want to call in. Dr. Harry Harris is here and taking your phone calls. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air with Dr. Harris. What is your question this morning?
I have one quick comment, and that's for you. I would like to thank you very much for when you mentioned Martin Luther King Day, Jr. Day, because on TV I've seen a lot of newscasters where they say MLK, and I just kind of find that a little disrespectful, that his whole name should be mentioned. So I wanted to thank you for that. And for the guest, I would like to, would he be willing to say who he voted for? Because it appears as if he leans a little towards Trump.
Okay, do you have any spying questions or hacking questions for Dr. Harris? Because we can answer those if you want to. More so than the voting, I'm sure.
I must say the voting is a private issue.
I was just curious. That's okay.
Do you have any other questions besides voting?
No, I don't. That's okay.
Okay, all right. Who did you vote for? I'm just curious. Go ahead, caller.
I voted for Hillary.
You did. Do you think that we were hacked? Do you think Putin had an effect on our elections?
Well, I definitely think we were hacked. Did it have an effect on our election? I agree with the gentleman that we made our own decision at voting. And so there was fake news, there was all this stuff that was introduced, but it was up to us on our vote, our decision.
Yeah.
So I don't think we were hacked in that sense where it jeopardized our voting option.
Yeah.
That was up to us.
Okay. Good call. I appreciate you watching, and be careful out there, because you know what the joke is now. Putin is watching everything, every move that we make. He's watching this show right now, so you never know once it gets online.
Exactly right, with the megadata.
We're being watched very closely, and so but let me ask you this: is Putin a dangerous man? Should we fear him?
We should watch him carefully.
Mm-hmm.
We should fear no one. We are a strong nation, and we know what we can do. There's no question in my judgment we have the most powerful military in the world. But we should watch all our adversaries, whether it be Mr. Putin or any other nation.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question, because you worked in the White House so many years ago and the Defense Department. Without revealing any secrets, did the United States invent spying? Did we invent hacking?
No, of course not. I mean, we didn't. Spying.
How did we do it way back when we didn't have the technology that we have now?
We had technology. We've had technology for years.
Decades?
Yes, for decades. If you remember during World War II, looking at the movies of Hollywood and the spies, they were on their radio transmitters, but we had a lot of human intelligence at the time, spies going around. But the technical stuff, whether it be a telegraph or a telephone or a radio, these were all technical means.
We were able to hack into that system at the time, and listen.
And listen, exactly right. And take a look what's happened, for example, in Europe and during World War II, the information we got from the Germans in terms of breaking their spy code.
What I read and what I've seen from Hollywood is that our submarines were able to capture conversations.
We can with the sonar that we had, yes.
Yeah, but way back when.
Right.
Yeah. So, hey, I want to change topics here a little bit, and that is Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions. Let's put up his photo, because this man creating a lot of controversy too. A lot of people do not want to see him confirmed. Now, the Democrat Cory Booker, he is a senator from New Jersey, testified against the confirmation of his own colleague. And I want to play the soundbite now. That's Jeff Sessions, by the way. Let's play the soundbite from Cory Booker that says no on Jeff Sessions for Attorney General.
I know that some of my many colleagues are unhappy that I am breaking with Senate tradition to testify on the nomination of one of my colleagues, but I believe, like perhaps all of my colleagues in the Senate, that in the choice between standing with Senate norms or standing up for what my conscience tells me is best for our country, I will always choose conscience and country. Senator Sessions has not demonstrated a commitment to a central requisite of the job, to aggressively pursue the congressional mandate of civil rights, equal rights, and justice for all of our citizens. In fact, at numerous times in his career, he has demonstrated a hostility towards these convictions and has worked to frustrate attempts to advance these ideals. The next Attorney General must bring hope and healing to this country. And this demands a more courageous empathy than Senator Sessions' record demonstrates. It demands an understanding that patriotism is love of country, and love of country demands that we love all of our citizens, even the most marginalized, the most disadvantaged, the most degraded, and the most unfortunate. With all that is at stake in our nation now, with an urgent need for healing and for love, I pray that my colleagues will join me in opposing his nomination.
All right, that was Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey, and I want your expertise on this. Cory Booker on target, out of line?
No, I don't think he's out of line. I think he's on target for his own views, his own beliefs. And as a senator and as a person, he felt very, very strongly about it. And if you feel strongly, John, about something, you should express it. And I thought he expressed it in a very positive way, his views. Not that everybody agrees with him, but at least he had the opportunity to express his views about a fellow senator in front of a confirmation hearing. And John Lewis was also there, and others that were opposed to the nomination. Now, he's not the first person who has opposed a presidential appointee. He happens to be a senator. But he was very fervent in his views, and that's his right as a citizen.
Yeah, and so he wasn't being disrespectful.
No, he wasn't. I thought he presented it in a very, very respectful way.
Very elegant way,
I thought it was very elegant. It was, very well phrased, in my judgment. And those are his views.
Do you think he'll be confirmed?
Mr. Sessions? Absolutely.
Yeah. And Tillerson? Confirmed?
Yes, they're all going to be confirmed.
They're all going to be confirmed?
They're going to be the ones that we have seen. Mr. Tillerson, Jeff Sessions, General Mattis,
Yeah, let's put up the pictures in order here. We got the three generals. We got Mattis.
Yes, he will be
Let's put up
confirmed.
Mattis first.
Very good.
Yeah, he's there. He is right there,
Right.
and they're all retired. This guy's retired too. You want Defense Secretary General James Mattis, and then you've got Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. He's also
Right.
retired, National Security Advisor.
correct.
There he is,
There
right
he is,
there.
right.
And then we've got
He doesn't. Well, he doesn't need Senate confirmation.
Okay, all right.
That's just an appointment.
That's an appointment. And General John F. Kelly, retired Homeland Security
Yes,
Secretary.
he will. I also saw the confirmation hearings for him, and he very first rate, no question about it.
All these gentlemen you think highly of.
I think very highly of General Kelly. I think very highly of General Mattis.
Okay, and Flynn?
Flynn has had some difficulties being an administrator when he was head of DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. Now, he said he left the position because he disagreed with the president, and others said that it was a question of his managerial style in the Pentagon. But I would place a lot of emphasis on both General Mattis, who is going to be the Secretary of Defense, and also General Kelly, who will be heading the Homeland Security.
Yeah, two very important positions.
Absolutely, and they're both extremely well qualified, and I think the president-elect made two excellent appointments.
All right, Dr. Harry Harris is here. Take our final break here. Thomas Casagrande is our sponsor today, 2020 Optometrics. Back with more of our show in just a moment.
Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're the save energy, save time, save money place. The Energy Star qualified #1 rated high efficiency Cabrio from Whirlpool Place. You heard right. Right now, save big on select Whirlpool Cabrio laundry pairs and pay no interest when paid in full within 6 months. At the hometown low price, think outside the big box place. Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
Even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. Yeah. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
And of course, Dr. Martin Luther King Day here. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. actually is the correct name, and we celebrate, of course. And Dr. Harris, it was passed by Congress, signed into law by President Reagan back in 1983, and the law stands today, and it should be a national holiday. He really was an icon, and the "I Have a Dream" speech. And I lived in Washington, not as long as you, but I lived there for about a year. And I used to go to the Lincoln Memorial and just stare at it.
Mm-hmm. It's a very impressive statue.
Yeah.
A very impressive memorial. I used to go there too as well.
Yeah.
And if you look at the gentleman, take a look at his hands. One with a clenched fist, another one which is open, which tells me and tells the nation and tells the world that we are also strong on the one hand, but we're also compassionate on the other.
Right, incredible. But you look out over that mall and how many things have taken place there over the course of time. A lot of history there, and then right nearby is the Vietnam Memorial Wall, and quite an impressive sight. If you haven't gone, you should really go.
Yes, everybody should go. I mean, Washington is a tremendous city of monuments.
Yeah, it's an amazing country we live in. But let me ask you a couple of questions about Donald Trump. Let's put his picture up, because conflicts of interest with his business dealings. Is there a conflict? His two sons now are going to run it. They mocked him again on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
We're not going to run it because everybody probably saw it by now. Right. But So what would you do if you were Donald Trump? Would you just say, look, I've got to dissolve all my assets because I don't want a conflict?
Absolutely. You know, as the president, you should not have any conflicts with your personal business. You're in business to represent the people of the United States, to represent the country in the world. But he has a far-flung operation with, I believe, 17 hotels around the world.
Mm-hmm.
His name is plastered on buildings all over the world. But the most important thing here is, what does he do with his assets? Will there be any conflicts of interest? For example, his hotel in Washington, in the old post office building, the diplomats are going there and they're having receptions and what have you. I just don't know. It's going to really.
Are we to believe that his sons won't report back to him?
Well, that's the whole thing. He said he would not talk to his sons, and even though the family is extremely close, it's going to be interesting just how all of this plays out. The ethics people are really very, very concerned about it. Both those that have been in government, the ethics people before, and the ones who are currently in the ethics office.
If you were advising Donald Trump, you'd say to him regarding that issue.
Well, the point is you cannot sell real estate overnight. That's the problem. Now, if all these assets, if he has $2 billion, $10 billion and they happen to be all in stocks and what have you, then put in a blind trust. Just forget about it for 4 years or 8 years, and then pick it up when you come out.
All right, FBI Director James Comey, let's put his photo up under fire. A lot of people say he should resign. John Lewis, Cory Booker say, hey, you need to get out of here. And a lot of people, maybe even Charles Schumer thinks he should resign. A lot of people on the Democratic side of the aisle say you need to go. I don't know what Donald Trump thinks. What do you think?
Well, first of all, the Wall Street Journal this weekend has called for Mr. Comey's resignation. When you lose confidence, it's time to go.
Mm-hmm. And that people have lost confidence in him?
It seems to be that the possible decision makers have lost confidence. Now, he has a 10-year appointment, but the president can fire him.
The question is, has Donald Trump lost confidence?
Well, that's
in
what I
him?
mean.
The
president-elect
has lost confidence in him.
Well, I don't know if he's lost confidence or not.
Because he criticized him during the campaign. Of course.
I know.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, we'll see what happens. But he may even resign before the president-elect comes on board.
Yeah, and James Comey, of course, releasing some information about, he had more information about Hillary's emails just, 10 or 12 days out from the election?
Well,
was that a mistake?
This whole thing is almost convoluted, John. You also have the Loretta Lynch meeting President Bill Clinton on the tarmac about the same time, and then also the Attorney General said to Mr. Comey, you make the decision, you make the call.
Yeah.
So that gave him kind of an opening.
Homeland Security is a big issue. All right, roll the videotape, because recently there was a shooting in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at the airport. This guy, Esteban Santiago, apparently retrieved his suitcase, got the gun, went in the bathroom, loaded it up, came out, started shooting.
Yes.
What do we need to do to secure our airports? Because with your global managements and associates, you travel. What do we need to do to improve?
Well, I've seen security all over the world. As I told you, John, I traveled 135,000 miles last year, made about 8 foreign trips, both to Central Asia, into Europe, and also into Asia. We have to be vigilant at all times. Now, some of the stuff that we've been doing, for example, the TSA, we can continue to tighten things up. You cannot prevent everything, but you can at least prepare for almost all contingencies.
Is this a loophole that we need to close, this carrying a weapon in checked luggage?
Checked luggage with the separate shells. That's possibly one area that we can maybe tighten up, that you cannot carry any weapons. So if you do that, then how about the hunters that are going hunting? Can you carry any weapons for that? So here we have one individual, after millions of miles of travel, that something like this happens. But again, it's very, very tragic. It's tough. How do you prevent an attack? For example, you could be attacking from outside the airport. For example, what happened in Turkey at the Ataturk airport. which
Even
I was
Russia got hit at their airport.
Exactly right. And I had been at that airport this last year in the Ataturk airport in Istanbul. In fact, right there where it happened. I was right there waiting for my taxi. So I could see that happening.
Yeah, all over the world,
all over the
including
world.
Moscow in 2011. They had their airport.
And I was at Fort Lauderdale just a few months ago at that same airport this happened.
Yeah, it's quite frightening for a lot of people. Like you say, you can't secure everything. And prevent everything.
But you can work toward.
But you can work toward it. But why does it work so much better in Israel than it does here?
Well, I can tell you, I was in Israel last year, John, and I went through this security. Very, very, very tight, very close scrutiny. No question about it, because you take the time to do it.
Yeah, and they don't have the ACLU to deal with like we do here, though. That's part of the other issue, right?
They go into profiling. They go into actual searches. It's very, very close, but they haven't had any problems.
Yeah, but because of the profiling, probably, huh?
The profiling is just one aspect of the security aspect.
Yeah,
of
there's so many other aspects that
Right.
we don't have time to get into it.
Technical as well.
Yeah, technical as well. And so before we go here, because we're almost out of time, you're the president and founder of Healthcare California, a healthcare enterprise.
Right.
Tell us just quickly in 20, 30 seconds.
It's a home health agency.
Okay.
I have a staff of clinicians, nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and essentially, when you leave the hospital with an illness or with an injury, the physician gives you a plan of care, gives it to us, and we take care of the person at home. It's best to get out of the hospital as rapidly as possible so you don't get infected, and we'll take care of you at home.
And a phone number for Healthcare California?
243-9990.
All right. And quickly about Global Management Associates, a consulting group.
Right.
What's that?
I consult with foreign entities, governments, and also enterprises, primarily in Asia.
All right. Regarding economics?
Healthcare
Healthcare and
primary.
economics?
Healthcare and globalization issues.
Oh, such
trade,
as?
Trade.
Oh, trade.
Right,
Oh, trade
exactly.
issues.
Trade issues and also investment issues as well.
Okay. All right. Now, the inauguration, finally, we got about a minute left,
Right.
or maybe about a minute and a half,
Right.
is this Friday.
Right.
Should certain lawmakers boycott? Is that appropriate?
I think it's up to you what you want to do, but as a representative of your people, of your district, I think you should go because it's the presidency, whether you agree or not. We had an election. It's just like a ball game. You lose, your team lost. What do? Tear the stadium apart?
Not quite.
Not quite. Exactly right.
No.
So I think what they should do is, as Vice President-elect Pence said, he would hope that John Lewis would come.
Yeah, and Cory Booker as
And
well.
Cory Booker
And
and
the rest.
Barbara Lee and the rest of the 20-some-odd people who have said they would
Well,
not
Bill
come.
Clinton, Hillary they're going to be
They're
there.
gonna
The
be there.
Bushes will be there.
Right.
So,
Except the elder Bush is not well.
yeah, he's not well. He's in a
And
wheelchair.
President Carter is
He's going to attend.
Is
Yeah.
going to attend. And I think there should not be any boycott. We should all get together.
Yeah, and by
as
the
a
way,
nation.
you know President Carter, right?
Yes, yes.
So you should go also.
I should.
I want to see you in Washington
I'm
this
going to
Friday.
be in Hawaii on Friday.
Okay.
So I'm leaving.
All right. All right. Well, good luck to
Okay,
you.
John.
Have a
Thank you
safe
very much.
trip,
Thank you
and
very
thanks
much.
for coming on
Okay,
the show.
thanks for the
Come back
invitation.
again soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Have a good flight.
Okay.
All right. Dr. Harry Harris worked in the White House for many years, knows President Carter, and worked in the Secretary of Defense's office as well back in 1975, knows Washington and how this government works very well. And we thank him for his time on this Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Go out and celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. Have a good day, everybody. See you tomorrow back here with Derek Franks, the GM for the Grizzlies.
2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
If you have a need to promote your business or event, please consider MeTV Fresno for your next campaign. MeTV reaches over 100,000 of your potential customers in the Fresno area every single week. Plus, you can rest assured that your commercial is running in the greatest family-friendly programs